Good evening, and welcome to Live and Let Live, the regular television show produced by the Travis County Libertarian Party, the party of principle. We've got a lot of interesting stuff for you tonight. We just had our state convention a couple of weeks ago down in Corpus Christi. It was very entertaining for all of those of you that were there. I know that you enjoyed yourselves, and for some of you who didn't have the opportunity to get to our state convention, we've got some clips that we're going to show you tonight from that convention. Also upcoming is our national convention, where we'll be nominating our presidential candidate. That comes up the weekend just before July 4th. And I think you also know that this weekend the Green Party is nominating their candidate, and there's some interesting things going on there too in terms of debate possibilities. But one thing I wanted to point out today was that we've gone ahead and increased our advertising presence. This is this week's issue of the Austin Chronicle. We started our advertising last week, and it'll be for 4 weeks. If the response is good, we'll go ahead and continue it. We're on the back page. Last week we were in a very prominent position up here at the very top left, and this week they've moved us down a couple of rows. I'll go ahead and read our ad if you haven't gotten a chance to see it. Think government is a mess? For common sense solutions, visit the Travis County Libertarians meeting Tuesday, July 11th at 7 p.m. at 3700 Lake Austin Boulevard, 467-1776. That's our phone number if you need to get more information. And if you have access to the World Wide Web, you can go to www.austinliberty.org, where we have our calendar of events. First thing I'd like to do is we're going to do things sort of in reverse chronological order. We're going to go ahead and talk about the upcoming national convention, which is going to be held out in Anaheim, California, where our presidential candidate will be selected. And then we're going to show a clip from the state convention, which was held a couple of weeks ago. So at this point in time, let's bring on our state chair, who's going to help me talk about the state convention. Welcome, Geoff Neale.
David, good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
Now, I thought we were talking about the national convention.
Oh, that's right. We're going to first talk about the national convention.
Okay, not a problem. So, where do you want to start? National convention's coming up in
Tell me where, tell me when, tell me how many candidates, tell me all the good stuff.
Well, we're starting, the convention starts next Friday. That's the formal opening of business. It's Friday through the following Monday. That's the 29th of June through or is it the 30th of June, I think it is. I've got all the information in front of me here, but I can't remember. It's June 29th through July 3rd. Now, of course, we've got, just like any political party, we've got things that start a few days before. We've got wonderful things like bylaws meetings and platform meetings, and all the state chairs are getting together and having a little meeting, and the National Committee has a meeting always before the actual convention kicks off.
Okay, so there's the Rules Committee and the Platform Committee, and what else did you say?
There's a meeting of state chairs.
Okay, the state chairs are going to get together, so
Yes,
you'll
they
be
are.
there at that. What do they usually
Gladly.
talk about at the state chair meetings?
Basically, it's just a big round table. Everybody shares what they're doing, what's working for them, what kind of exciting ideas are going, what exciting things are going on. As much as anything, with 50 states, and usually we have about at least 45 state chairs there. There's always a turnover, of course. So there's a lot of maybe his first-time state chair, also might be their first time at a national convention, and libertarians are used to working in relatively small groups. We're 20, 30 people, groups of activists, just as almost every political party is that way.
I hear all politics is local.
That's absolutely correct. And it's not very often that any political party gets together and have a massive number of people at one time. I mean, in comparison, the Republicans and Democrats throw a really big bash, of course, but when you see those pictures and you see, my God, they've got an entire basketball arena full and there's 35,000 people and they're screaming and waving flags, and you realize that only about 3,000 of those people are delegates.
Oh, and
All the rest are like, I don't know if they're shills or what, but they're spectators, which is
even
kind
if
of an
there are
interesting thing.
3,000 delegates, probably still all the real decisions are made in the smoke-filled rooms with the 20 people in the back somewhere. All the planning and everything like that.
That's right. And I mean, like in political parties, like the Republicans and Democrats, it's very often that any platform report, when it hits the floor, the platform is really, it's like the Bible of a political party. It's like, this is what we stand for. These are our principles. That's maybe why Republicans and Democrats don't spend a lot of time discussing that on the floor. It's usually done in a committee meeting, and it's kind of rubber stamped. There's not a lot of floor fights over what the content of the platform is. But in the Libertarian Party, of course, it's very common. The platform committee will spend, they've been working on it for months. I was on the platform committee, but had to step down because of conflicts with other committees that I'm on that I
So
cannot
you were
be on
on,
both.
on the platform committee for this upcoming
That's correct.
convention, but you stepped down.
So we've had a lot of discussion, and of course there always is a lot of discussion in the platform debate. But when that platform report hits the floor at the Libertarian Party meeting, it doesn't mean anything.
So
There are no rubber stamps.
So there's
in the
no rubber
Libertarian
stamps
Party.
in the
Absolutely
Libertarian
not.
Party. Okay.
And the Libertarian membership has many times in the past looked at this, go, ha, tooey, throw it away. Let's go something else. We don't like this.
Well,
And so you get the, well, but we thought this over. He says, okay, but we still don't like it. Which is characteristically very different than the way the Democrats and Republicans do things. It really is kind of a rubber stamp deal. The committee meetings themselves are very high-level politics, and the delegates are going there. In many, like I said, the rubber stamp. Big difference we have as well is none of our delegates are committed delegates. We don't have a system by which our delegates are committed to a candidate.
to a particular candidate. But
So-
before you get on to the
Yeah.
candidates, so I wanted to talk just a moment more about the platform
Sure.
stuff. Because I know we had some very exciting activity regarding the Texas platform, the Texas Libertarian Party platform, at our state convention, and maybe we'll get a chance to talk about some of that. But since for a while you were, at least for temporarily, you were on the platform committee.
That's right.
Do you know some of the issues that were brought up, some of the kinds of changes that were raised?
Well, actually, one of the reasons that I took position on the platform committee is because we're looking for somebody who, really from Texas, who really wanted to get into that. And it says something about Texans that we really didn't have a lot of people saying, ooh, that's something I want to do. To be honest with you, libertarian philosophy, if you look at one platform to the next, the changes usually are very, very small. Because we don't change our philosophy. Our moral compass, if you want to call it that, always points true north for us. It doesn't change a lot. So the platform committee, we usually end up getting with, it almost gets philosophical of, well, what's the purpose of a platform? Do we want this to be an outreach document to people? And then, of course, the question comes up, well, how many people have actually read the platform of the Republican and the Democratic parties? And I think there's probably 6 journalists that have.
Right.
Because they certainly don't act like they understand what's in the various platforms.
It
And
seems
so
to only
those
come
kind
up
of things come
when the media wants to focus on an issue and they want to see if the candidate is in agreement with
That's right.
with his party's position.
Always the biggest thing that comes up every 2 years, we have a platform report. By our bylaws, the way it works is the priority in presidential years is given to the platform report first and the rules report second. So rules gets whatever's left over
In terms of time?
in terms of time. So in order to, make sure that, we've got things set properly for the election. In the other elections, in the other conventions, the ones that are, for example, in 98, 2002, 2006, the bylaws goes first. And so they get the full scope of debate, and whatever's left ends up going to the platform. Now, generally, in reality, again, libertarians don't spend a lot of time saying, gee, we need to revamp all our rules. There have been some years deep in the past where people got into that, but lately it hasn't really been much of a problem. But every year it seems that every election would seem that there's some people who don't like one section of our platform, and that's the preamble. We challenge the cult of the omnipotent state, and there's always somebody who wants to change that.
Well, when I first read that, it was very shocking to me to hear those words, because the wording is very, very in your face. But it grows on you. It does. Once you go, okay, I'm taken aback by that wording. Take a couple of deep breaths and then read it over and understand what it is they're saying there, because that's very shocking words. We challenge the cult of the omnipotent state. What are you using words like that for?
That's right.
Those are inflammatory words, incendiary. And then you think about what it's saying there. Yeah, that's exactly what I mean to say. That there's something going on here in the country that everybody thinks the government can solve all the problems, and the bigger the government, the better, because apparently they can solve the problems. But our experience is that they can't, and so this is a myth. And yeah, I do mean to say that. And so it grows on you, and after a while you don't want to give it up, because you try to think, well, how could it be said better? And I've tried to think of this too. How could we say this better? Well, I don't think it can be said better shorter. There's no way to summarize it in fewer words of what you're really trying to say. We challenge the cult of the omnipotent state.
No, I agree with you absolutely, 100%. It's almost poetic.
Yeah, but
The big but is that if you ask 100,000 people in America what omnipotent means, I'd be willing to bet that 65% of them are confusing it with impotent.
Oh, no.
No,
We're already confused with librarians, so we don't need to be impotent librarians.
Impotent librarians, exactly. We don't want to get that. But really, I mean, there is something to be said for putting things through a grammar checker and say, well, gee, what level of are we talking here? And that comes out at 212th grade level.
Right.
I mean, the average college graduate has to go, wait a minute.
Right.
Hold on. What are you saying? And I think that a lot of people want to say, let's say it in a way that is clear for people to understand.
Right.
But I
think
happen to think it's
support
incredibly a poetic phrase, and maybe it has value in the fact that it is not so easy. Like it's that there is advantage. You have to say, well, here, let's think about what this means.
It forces you to think right away.
Certainly
but I think that if we heard a poetic replacement, we'd know it right away. And we go, okay, yeah, I loved, or I had grown used to we challenge the cult of the omnipotent state, but I like this phrasing. It is poetic. It's a little longer, but I can support that. And if we hear it, we'll know it. But we haven't heard it yet. Haven't heard a better way to say that.
But of course, now, the Libertarian Party runs, generally, of course, it runs under its own rules, and when it doesn't have any specific rules for any specific circumstance, it defaults to the common rules for parliamentary procedure that everybody uses, Robert's Rules of Order. To change that section of our platform requires a 7/8 vote of all delegates, not ones on the floor. Now, a standard for changing, let's say you just want to change the wording on the position on guns.
So different parts of the platform require different levels of approval.
Exactly.
And the preamble that says what we're all about requires almost unanimous approval to change that. The rest of the platform might contain issue statements and stuff like that, and you can change it from year to year. And
That's right.
Just need a majority to change that.
You need a majority to delete a plank, and you need a 2/3 majority to insert or to amend or change any portion of the plank in a platform. But that's 2/3 of those voting,
Right.
and that is requiring a quorum. So a
Okay.
quorum being 50% plus one of the registered delegates.
All right,
So
well-
that's a big difference in count.
Okay, we've got about 10 minutes right now
Okay.
to talk about the candidates, because we do have a special piece that we're going to show today, something from the state convention. So let's go ahead and see if we can talk about some of these candidates, the presidential candidates. Let's see, it's in one of these LP News, right?
I
Which
hope
one do
so,
you have there?
because there's so many, I can't keep track of all of them. Well, we could start
Actually-
alphabetically.
Okay,
We can start with Harry Brown. I don't think there's anybody who's higher up the alphabetical list.
and what's also interesting is that we have some good competition this time around for the vice presidential candidacy, and with some good candidates there.
Yes, I don't know that we have any races. The only race I think we have, of course, there's only the two races at the national level for public office, the president and vice president. And again, this is something for our viewers. The Libertarian Party does not run slates. So it's a separate, we expect the vice president to run as a nominee for vice president, not
So
to
we don't.
be
So
chosen.
Harry Brown doesn't have a running mate right now.
He can certainly, the attitude we have as libertarians is that if Harry Brown was the man who won the election, the nomination, which is by no means a guarantee, then he certainly would have the right to stand up and say, and the guy I want, or the gal I want to be my vice presidential running mate is. And we, as libertarians, say, that's great, we'll take that into consideration. If we don't like your choice, we're not going to vote for him.
Okay. Well, can you summarize, and because like I say, we just have a few minutes, so let's try to summarize a little bit about each of these presidential candidates. And I think people have actually heard of Harry Brown.
Harry Brown, of course, was our 1996 presidential candidate. To a certain degree, because of that, he's the favorite. I mean, let's be honest.
He's got quite a war chest.
He's got a war chest. He has a large group of donors. He's raised and spent over $1 million already, and he doesn't even have the nomination, which is a pretty large amount for third-party politics. Remember, we don't have any rich, spoiled millionaires running. We're looking for them because we're always in favor of people spending their own money to run campaigns. That's really great. That's what people ought to do. But we don't have any Ralph Naders. We don't have any Jesse Venturas. We don't have any Pat Buchanans. We don't have any of those kind of people that are sitting there with a lot of money. Harry Brown is somebody who's successful, without question, in his field. Financial advice, and he's written books on various different subjects, so well known. And he is running again.
What about Mr. Gorman?
Mr. Gorman is one of our most successful elected politicians. He served 3 terms in the New Hampshire State of Representatives.
And at one point in time, he was actually the head of a delegation there.
That's right. And I understand you had something to do with it, David. What was that?
Well, I was the chief of staff to the Libertarian delegation to the New Hampshire House, the only delegation we've ever had, and I hope that changes at some point in time. And I know that it will.
Certainly will.
Yes, you're right. He was the head of the delegation and responsible for saving several things from happening. We didn't get a lot of things passed that were libertarian legislation, but we did succeed in turning back a lot of things that were going the wrong direction. And we got one of our candidates appointed to the Liquor Commission there, and so...
I'd volunteer for that.
So who else do we have listed there?
Well, of course, we've got Don Gorman. I mean, but the one thing about Don is every one of our candidates now is basically stressing that the reason why they're the better candidate is because of, I mean, whatever it is. Harry Brown has some notoriety, has some exposure. He's a rock-solid libertarian. I don't think anybody questions the fact of his positions. Don Gorman likewise, but Don says, but wait a minute, I've been elected. I know how to run a campaign. I've got some credentials that Harry Brown doesn't have. Barry Hess is I believe he's from California, and he's running. His position is that he thinks that Harry Brown is, I won't say soft is not the right word, but he doesn't go head on difficult topics like the drug issue, medical marijuana. That he takes a softer approach. So his position is that we should just, damn the torpedoes full speed ahead. Be very aggressive, and he thinks that that's the way for us to go. And although, again, many of the differences you have between the different candidates are in terms of approach rather than actual philosophy, because every one of them is opposed to the drug war, and every one of them is opposed to...
So is there strategic differences?
Exactly, and they're saying, well, this is why I ought to be the guy. Now, we also have... I'm trying to remember the gentleman here from Texas, because, to be honest with you, I mean, in the debates we had... in the debate we had in Corpus, I think he's not quite ready for Dean Tucker.
Dean Tucker, thank you.
I don't think
thank
he's
you,
quite ready
audience
for...
member.
I don't think he's quite ready for the big time, if you know what I mean.
No, I don't think he's ready for the big time, but we probably shouldn't say that on the air, but
But no, that's okay. I mean, let's face it, how many, I think Bob Dole wasn't ready for the big time.
That's true. That's true.
You know, as I say to people, they said, well, I shouldn't I'm not going to waste my vote voting for a Libertarian. I said, well, anybody who voted for Bob Dole wasted their vote,
yes.
because it was absolutely sure that he wasn't going to win the election. Dave Hullist, I don't know anything about him, unfortunately, as far as presidential candidate.
Oh, yeah,
Do
we
you
probably
know
shouldn't
much
even
about him?
say anything about him because he didn't show up at our state convention.
He was invited. They were all
If
invited.
he didn't show up, he might as well not even bother. We shouldn't say anything about him.
Exactly.
In fact, that's what we should say about him. He didn't
Nothing
show
at
up.
all. And I'm trying to remember, I wonder if the audience can tell me who the gentleman who was.
Art Olivier.
Art Olivier, that's it.
Vice presidential
Vice
candidate.
presidential candidate.
And-
He's got a good image. I mean, he
Right.
comes across very well.
And Jim, Jim,
I don't know.
oh, there was another fellow too, Jim, oh well, no, it slipped my mind.
But see, there's lots of people who want these candidacies.
Well, the vice presidential spot can lead to a presidential nomination 4 years from now. That's
Yes, it
happened
can.
before.
Yes, it can.
So it's a way to get your name out there, show that you can run a campaign, and then maybe step into something else. So
That's
We'll see
it's
that.
good. Now, of course, we also have our internal party races as well coming
Mm-hmm.
up at the national. Looks like it's going to be a hotly contested race for chair, which is good. It's always good. It's not a good thing when there's only one candidate for chair and no opposition, like there was at our last state convention.
where Jeff was nominated and reelected.
But
Thank you, Jeff, for
But
serving.
I'm happy. I'm very happy to say that I heard at least 3 or 4 people vote for none of the above rather than voting for me, because I certainly want to think that that there was just unanimous support for what I'm doing. I mean, that would scare me. Libertarians agreeing on anything is not necessarily
Not
good.
normal.
No, it's not normal. We agree
Except
on.
we all agree that the government is too big.
Yes, we do. We absolutely do. There's a lot of
Oh,
things.
there
we
it
do
is.
agree on.
Jim Lark.
Now, Jim Lark was one of the
See, I
speakers.
knew
And he is, I don't know if, I couldn't honestly, if somebody's going to ask me to say, hey, give me a book on this, how's it looking for the national chair? And I mean, I'm on the national committee, so you'd think I know a little bit about what's going on, and I really have no sense about what's going on.
Well,
with
I can
that.
tell you a little bit about him. He did get back to me after the convention. He sent me an email message and asked,
Well, we know about Jim.
Oh, Jim we know very well, but I'm not sure about how well his competition,
Oh,
how,
okay.
how his chances are. Because he's a wonderful guy. I mean, he's very intelligent, extremely literate, well-spoken.
he asked about if you might be a libertarian.
Yeah.
He asked about that and wanted me to send off everything I had about that. So maybe they'll use it out there too.
That would be great. Well, he's what I'd call a gentle soul. You know, he's somebody who's got, the heart of gold. Maybe it's kind of a little uncharacteristic, should we say. I mean, we're often accused of being cold-hearted and very fiscally minded and not socially minded. But Jim is somebody who's just a good guy, and he's got a heart of gold. That's really nice. Now, Gary Copeland and George Phillies are also running. I honestly don't know anything about either of them. Jim I've known for a long time, but I can't honestly say where that's looking to go.
So how many delegates do we get from Texas to go out
Texas,
there?
we have a slot of 67. The question is whether 67 will show up there, because, of course, I don't know how it works in the big parties, but if somebody wants to be a delegate to the National Party of the Libertarian Party, they pay out of their own pocket. There is literally nothing that is provided for by party. It is all out of pocket, and I'm not sure if that's really the case in the Republicans and the Democrats.
All right, so we got about one more minute before
Okay.
we're going to go to this clip. You've got some quick notes that you can tell us about?
Well, the great thing about the convention is that we just get these really great people to come speak.
And I can tell you right now that we haven't had enough time to chat. So I'd love to have you on again in the near future. We've got lots more to talk
That's
about.
great.
In fact, if you could come back for a post-convention wrap-up, that'd be great.
As long as you let me recover from it first. I mean,
Okay.
the key thing that we've got to mention, of course, is that Texas is famous, almost infamous. Really isn't the right word, but maybe notorious is the right word, for throwing the Texas Hospitality Suite at the national convention. It's done it for eons. I've been to 8 conventions, 8 national conventions, and they're every 2 years, so that's a few. And always the Texas delegation throws a great party, to the point that it's the first party everybody goes to. And maybe that's the most important thing of it all, but that's why I say that I have to make sure that I recover from that first.
Well, you certainly want to have camaraderie. Build
Yes,
that.
and we've decided that we're going to put a sign on the door that labels our hospitality suite as the William Jefferson Clinton Memorial
Oh, geez.
intern training center.
Okay, quick. Give you 30
we've got
seconds.
some
Go
big
through these
people like
names.
Russell Means. I mean, the Indian rights activist.
These are speakers.
This is speaker. Where is that person? The guy who's going to be Neil Bortz. I mean, I don't know if you ever hear Neil Bortz on radio. Now, he's one of those people. I don't call him a shock jock, but he is an outright libertarian. He tells people he's libertarian all the time. He supports libertarian positions. He'll be there. Jack Gargan's going to be there. Ariana Huffington, why is she coming there? Well, she has decided for herself that we've got to end this war on drugs. So we're seeing people with stature realizing that we've been saying the right thing. Hey, look, Bush.
Oh, well, we've seen that before.
25 years ago, we said
Every
we've
couple
got
of years-
to get out of the Social Security business.
Every couple of years, one of our ideas becomes mainstream.
Yes.
So, okay, I'm going to have to cut you off because we need to leave time for this video clip that we have from our state convention. This is a clip of a speech given by Dick Boddy, who ran for our presidential nomination a few years back. Was it 4 years ago? Yes, I think it was.
I think it was 8 years
It was
ago.
8 years ago. How time flies. And he's from California. And so I hope you all enjoy this.
Candidate that year, and he's just such a dynamic guy. He just blew me away, and we've been friends ever since. Even though we don't see each other very often, I haven't seen him in ages. He lives in Southern California. I used to live in LA, so I'd see him once in a while there, but I haven't seen him too much lately, and I'm really glad that he's here. So please welcome Dick Boddy.
Thank you, Nancy. Hey, what a crowd, what a pumped up crowd, I'll tell you. Hey, no respect at all. Here we go. And I won't lie about it. Okay. I don't know Monica, though.
Not too late.
Oh, yeah, it is. Come gather around people wherever you roam, and admit that the waters around you have grown, and accept that soon you'll be drenched to the bone if your time to you is worth saving. Then you better start swimming, or you'll sink like a stone, for the times they are a-changin'. First of all, I just want to say it is such a pleasure to be here in Texas with Libertarians. I haven't been here since '91 when we were in Houston, and I was seeking the presidential nomination. Some of you may or may not be aware of the fact that you guys almost had a black guy as your candidate for president in '92, and it wasn't Muhammad Ali, it was me. And nobody invited me back until Nancy was nice enough to ask me to come back, because she and a few other people know that I love to speak, I love to talk, I love to entertain, I love good mic systems like this one, because I can do my voices and all. No, but it's truly a pleasure to be back here in Texas. I think of Lyndon Johnson as I speak those words. My fellow Americans, I come to you today with a heavy heart. Lady Bird and my two ugly daughters are pleased to be here in Texas. I'm going to start my timer because one of the things I really hate is boring speakers who go too long. So I have a thing to try to cut it off short. I was in St. Louis last weekend as the banquet speaker for the Missouri Libertarian Party, and my beeper went off at about 40 minutes, and I started to wind it down, and they said, keep going, keep going. And we did a few more minutes, but it's sort of like sales and sex. You want to leave them with something to remember and have you come back for. So I'll try not to go too long. The big joke around is that people keep mistaking me in airports and all to be Ed Bradley. I don't know what that's all about. The black guy has a white beard, so he looks dressed up, so he's got to be Ed Bradley. But if they look closer, they'd see there's no earring here. Homie, don't play that earring thing. All right. Now we're coming in and sitting down here. You know you're getting old, you know? You know you're getting old, everything hurts, and what don't work don't hurt. Or you know you're getting old when your back goes out more than you do. Or you know you're getting old when it takes you, well, anyway. My objective, let me start off with that. It's always a good idea to tell one of your objectives. My objective is to inspire freedom-loving people such as yourself, especially those who happen to be libertarians, to go forth and create a much more free society for themselves, for yourselves, and for your loved ones in the future. And we sometimes need encouragement from others, and we sometimes need uplifting words for us to be able to sustain, because we are not the most popular group of political people in this country, to put it mildly. As a matter of fact, as most of you know, if you use the word libertarian to some people, their eyes will glaze over and they will ask, what are you talking about? Or they will allude to Lyndon LaRouche for some reason. And that's the big lie that's been perpetuated by the Republicans and the demagogues to make people back off from libertarians because of this myth. My response to that one is always simply, oh no, he's a Democrat. That's a fun. I'm going to give you some of these little pointers. Keep your pencils ready, because these pointers will just spark out of my brain over the next half hour. So anytime somebody says, Lyndon LaRouche, do you know? I said, no. He's a Democrat. Because he is. He's a socialist fascist. That's not hard to do either. Yeah, I tell you, my wife and I were happy for 20 years, and then we met. How do you raise $1 million in the Libertarian Party? First, you start with $2 million. Casey Stengel so vividly said, I have nothing to say, and I'm only going to say it once, so stay with me. One of the things that we figured out a few years ago in Orange County in our local party was that if we sat down to do some strategic planning, perhaps we might have more success in the future. Because as people left and new people came in, they might have some sort of a roadmap. And we put together a strategic plan starting off with a mission statement. It's always a good idea to try a mission statement first, which is your vision of where you want to be. Well, we did it, put it together. It's working still. We're in our 5th year of that strategic plan. We are in our 3rd chair. Our chairs serve every 2 years. But we took the statement and adapted it to the national libertarian movement. And I'm going to give to you what we've come up with. Our mission: to restore the American dream of individual freedom and personal responsibility by making the libertarian choice a viable alternative for the voters of the United States of America. Isn't that interesting? Hey. I'll do that again, because those words took 3 weeks to come up with when we were adding the last part. It was only difference here is it said the voters of Orange County. But I'll do it again, because I think it's important for you to hear the kind of vision that it would be important for all of us to have the same words, to be on the same page. That's why when you go to VFW meetings, you do the same thing. That's why you go to the Episcopal Church, you do the same thing. That's why when you go to Boy Scouts of America, you do the same thing. Now, we are independent. We are a bunch of cats running in different directions, but at least at the veterinarian place, they have a thing where cats can at least do the right thing, too. So what we need to do is have some sort of a mission statement. So I'll read it again. And perhaps some of you might, in your own free time, get together and say, let's do some of this Try this strategic planning thing. Or hire somebody who knows how to do it. Or let's have a mission statement. So if somebody were to wake you up from a dead REM sleep with a 357 Magnum in your temple and say, give me your mission statement in 30 seconds or you're dead. We ought to be able to give that to them. Whether it's your personal mission statement or whether it's a corporate mission statement. Here it is again. Our mission is to restore the American dream of individual freedom and personal responsibility by making the libertarian choice a viable alternative to the voters of the United States of America. And you guys want Richard Body's personal mission statement? Okay, I'll give it to you. I'm glad you asked. To teach and share the ideas and ideals of individual achievement and individual liberty with at least one different human being each and every day for the rest of my life. Thank you for helping me meet my criteria for the day. All right. You know what our 2004 presidential ticket ought to be? Body and soul. Richard Body and Thomas Sowell, same ticket. And then people say, yep, I guess they're not a white party. Because our image doesn't look too good. Somehow, we keep doing the same things over and over again that can feed into the myth that the Libertarian Party is just a bunch of white guys who debate with each other, and like Little Black Sambo under the the thing with the tigers under the tree running around chasing their tails turn into butter. We got to stop making butter, guys. We've been making too much butter. It's like the thing comes to my mind is we got to start carrying the water to the desert and stop taking the water to the sea. We got to stop preaching to the choir. We got to stop debating each other. And I'm not implying that we should not have our issues with each other, but what I'm implying is we don't waste time trying to convince each other that our process is better than our counterparts' process at trying to achieve individual liberty in this country. Let's just stay out of each other's way then. Some of you know, and I'll just put this aside, some of you know that I am not a part of the established libertarian movement over the past 7 years. Well, one of the things I decided when I was being excluded is that I won't shoot at them. I won't bother them. I will leave them alone. I will use some libertarian thinking and the economic side and say, I'm going to compete with these dudes, and I'm going to come up in about 2004, and we're going to have a plan, we're going to put it together, and we're going to have some people elected to office. Because I am one of those few kind of libertarians that think, what we're doing this for is to elect people to office to institute our public policy. It doesn't have anything else to do with the theory. That's what a political party is supposed to be doing. And a political party does this not by rational thinking, but it does it by somebody up in the front of the room doing this and making people emotionally excited. Historically, that's how it works. And if we ain't doing that, then we're BSing. I won't say bullshitting because you guys tender years. I heard this one guy said the Jews sunk the Titanic. Did you hear that one? You guys were discussing this. Yeah, the Jews sunk the Titanic. And the other guy said, you're crazy. What the hell do you mean the Jews sunk the Titanic? An iceberg. They hit an iceberg. Iceberg sunk the Titanic. The guy says iceberg, Greenberg, Goldberg, all those things. If Clinton was the answer, it must have been a real sleazy question. I'll tell you. Well, Nancy and I are happy to be here today. No, he's in bad shape. My mentor spiritually, some of you may have heard of this guy, is a guy named Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass was the most well-known black man in the abolitionist movement. He's buried in Rochester, New York, where I'm from, about from here to the wall from Susan B. Anthony. And when I go back, I go talk to Fred, say, Fred, what's up, bro, man? And Fred, we talk, and Susan, I say, hi, baby. But the bottom line is, Frederick Douglass is the person that I esteem and see myself as in our movement, because we are really just the neo-abolitionist movement. Now, let me give you the parallels. The abolitionists had the belief that it was wrong for one person to own another human being. The abolitionist movement under William Lloyd Garrison in about 1831, when Garrison was publishing The Liberator, the feeling in the United States of America at that time, in 1831, was we had to have slavery. If we didn't have slavery, everybody would go naked. You know, who's going to pick the cotton? But Garrison raised the point to ask two questions. Is slavery necessary? And is slavery moral? And the answer to both was no. Not necessary, not moral. From 1831 to approximately 1859. It went from 80% believed it was moral and necessary to 80% believing it was not in that period of time. Okay, let's go fast forward to the neo-abolitionist movement of the early 21st century, which I call the Libertarian Party or the Libertarian movement. It's identical. All we are saying is that it is wrong for a group of people to own another person or other people. The same two questions arise. Is government as we know it necessary? Is government as we know it moral? The answer to both questions is no. So some of you folks who are just left the Republican Party to come over here and get real nervous by that statement, go find another party. Go find another party. But the bottom line is we do not need the kind of system we have today. All it has is the use of force. It's the only legitimacy of it, but my God, it's so far off base. And I think it takes persons such as us, with mission statements, with strategic plans, with directions, with emotion, to go out and preach this word to the public, whether it's on the internet or on TV commercials, the cheap ones at night, in the middle of the night on cable. However we do it, we have to keep preaching the word. H.L. Mencken, famous curmudgeon of the Baltimore Sun in the early 20th century. Great line by Mencken. He said, an election is the advanced auction of stolen goods. And that's the kind of thing we have to fight. What's the difference between socialism and communism? The size of the guns. That's what I tell people who want to get into that argument. How many communists does it take to change a light bulb? None. They have a shortage of bulbs. A liberal, one who will believe anything twice. Wow. Tom Sowell, quick economics statement. The first lesson in economics is scarcity. There is never enough of anything to satisfy all of those who want it. The first lesson in politics is to disregard the first lesson of economics. And Tom Sowell is correct. And that's why we don't do too well. Hello, Art. Good to see you, my man. That's one of my people there. That's how I live here. You know what I'm saying? No, I've turned black there all of a sudden. I got to come back. Ayn Rand said the smallest minority on earth is the individual, and those who deny individual rights cannot claim to be defenders of minorities. I love to throw that one at the liberals, because they're trying to play groupthink, and I'm saying, no. The smallest minority on earth is the individual human being. So if you guys don't understand that, you better shut up, because I'm going to smack you soon. The liberal elitists, their thinking is, let my conscience be your guide. And I just can't do it. I don't like that at all. A couple quickies here. We talk about regulation as being bad. Sometime when I'm discussing this with people who are not libertarians, I will put I'll use the term market regulation, because market regulation is good. So regulation per se is not bad if you're talking about market regulation. That's the best kind of regulation. So we should start to use semantics and terms when we're dealing. That's what Marshall Fritz started the Advocates for Self-Government for us to be able to learn how to sell our product. In 1985, Marshall came to my house, because I had been on the road to Berglund for that whole year, collecting names of people who I'd meet and I was impressed with. Because I was always impressed with the person who understood the marketing of our ideas. So I keep their cards, a list of their names. And when Fritz finally started the Advocates, I said, Marshall, I got a list of about 300 people from this whole campaign who I think would be good for the Advocates. And sure enough, he showed up. It was in January '85. I gave him my list, and that was the bulk of the list for the original Advocates for Self-Government, because these were kind of people who understood the concept of selling an idea. Because that's all we're doing, guys. I usually do in seminars or to groups like this, I ask the question immediately, how many people in the room are in sales? You get about 3 or 4 people raise their hand. I said, listen up. We should all be in sales. Everyone in this room should put your hand up. Because if we're not in sales, we're wasting our time. And you don't sell it like we used to sell it, saying, well, you're an idiot. No, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. I mean, that's the old reflexive thing. Oh, you damn Republicans and Democrats. No. Geoff was talking about a potential commercial approach that's being used, and the one that says, the old Texas, you know you could be a redneck if. Well, you use the same line for it. You could be a libertarian if. And that kind of approach works. If you think government is too big, maybe you're a libertarian. If you think that blah, 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 income tax is too high, maybe you're a libertarian, that kind of thing. Hey, that's better than you dumb, nasty Republican and Democrats, pig slime. Hey, it doesn't work. The first 10 amendments of the Constitution are the Bill of Rights. The first 9 prevent the government from infringing on specific freedoms, speech, assembly, the right to keep and bear arms, and others. The 10th essentially says, if we forgot anything, you can't do that either. And that's really what it's about, and that's why you get the people in power who will never, ever talk about or deal with the 10th Amendment at all. Because that's a scary one that says, something's gone totally haywire. I came across a little clipping here. Frederick Douglass, in 1888, received 1 vote from the Kentucky delegation at the Republican Convention in Chicago, effectively making Frederick Douglass the first black candidate nominated for president. Isn't that something? The nomination went to Benjamin Harrison. Maybe that's why I like Fred. He's been doing stuff that I sort of felt similar to. Here's another neat one here. It says, on March 4th in 1789, the Constitution of the United States went into effect as the first federal Congress met in New York City. The lawmakers then adjourned for lack of a quorum. Boy, if they could have kept that up. Wouldn't that be great if they could have kept that up for the past 200 and some years? One of the ways we can sell what we're doing, and one of the ways we can sell our ideas, and nobody has really thought of this except me and a couple other guys, we act like it's a secret. You see, because the results look like we're a secret for the past 29 years, we might as well take a hold of the reins and turn it around and effectuate it ourselves by saying things that people say, well, what's a libertarian? Oh, I can't tell you that. It's like A.J. Galambos used to do it in Southern California. I can't give you any information. Well, what does AJ stand for? You have to come to the meeting. Honest to God. And Galambos' ideas on economics and basically libertarian ideas and all are an integral part of what's going on in our lives today. So perhaps we might take the ploy of realizing if we make it a secret, then the press will show up. Oh, they're having a secret meeting of those libertarians. And they have the cameras booming. We don't have to do our own cameras. There's them there. That's an approach. Think about it. Not that you absolutely, but just think about that. Once again, we have to start to carry the water to the desert and stop hauling it to the sea. Nathaniel Brandon, who some of you know, or know who he is, Brandon was one of Ayn Rand's 4 horsemen. Nathaniel Brandon is a libertarian. He said something in the, a couple of years ago, Free Radical magazine out of Auckland, New Zealand, is one of the best libertarian publications in the world. If you haven't heard of Free Radical, libertarians in New Zealand are producing and have produced for the past 3 years the Free Radical magazine. In an article called The Foundations of a Free Society, Nathaniel Brandon made a statement, and I love it. He said, until the libertarian vision is understood as a spiritual quest and not merely as an economic quest, it will continue to face the kind of misunderstandings and adversaries it faces today. Now, I think what we have to begin to do is take a different approach. My old mantra that people know and have heard me do for a long time, my mantra says, if you always do what you always did, guess what? You always get what you always got. We have to start to do something different. Maybe 2 black guys on the ticket. I don't know what the hell it is, but whatever we've been doing, it ain't working, as far as getting people elected to office consistently. Now, I have a whole seminar that we're going to be putting on the road soon, and y'all be able to pay for that. That we'll be getting into the greater detail of some of the ideas that have not been tried in our movement over the past 29 years. Let me finish with these. I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Give them a sense of pride to make it easier. Let the children's laughter remind us how it used to be. I decided long ago never to walk in anyone's shadow, and that is indeed true, Richard Body. If I fail, if I succeed, at least I'll live as I believe. No matter what they take from me, they can't take away my dignity, because, this is almost Randian, the greatest love of all is happening to me. I found the greatest love of all inside of me. The greatest love of all is easy to achieve. Learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all. Now here's the capper. And if by chance that special place that you've been dreaming of leads you to a lonely place, find your strength in love. Ladies and gentlemen, I do this so my grandkids can sit in their private schools in the next 50 or 100 years and read history and have the teacher explain history and have my great-grandkids say, yes, we have a free nation because of my grandfather. That's why I do this. It surely is not for the money. We have been accused of for the money. No, it ain't for the money. Finish with Whitman before I sit down. I love poetry. Well, 2 more minutes here. I love poetry. I did a rally a couple years ago and came out with my mouth Shakespeare almost automatically. 92 or 91, an anti-tax rally. I started off, friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to bury power, not to seize it. And it was, man, I said, wow, isn't that incredible? And watching Dead Poets Society, which is one of my favorite movies, Robin Williams said a Whitman line. He said, and the powerful play goes on, and you can contribute a verse. Wow. The powerful play goes on, and you can contribute a verse. That's stunning to me. And I finish with John Donne, because some of us as libertarians have a tendency to think that we are so independent we don't need love, that we don't need help, that we don't need others. Yes, we do, as long as it's voluntary. Oh, by the way, that's the key question that answers everything regarding libertarian ideas, period. Is it voluntary? If the answer is no, I'm opposed to it. If the answer is yes, I may not do it. It's not something I do. I don't get hot. No. Is it voluntary? That's it. So let me finish with John Donne. No man is an island entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. If a clod were washed away by the sea, Europe is the less, as well as if a promontory were, as well as if a manor of thy friends or of thine own were. Any man's death diminishes me, because I am involved in mankind, and therefore never send to know for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee. Yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, today is a gift, and that's why it's called present. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. He's
Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that speech by Dick Body, one of our past presidential candidates. He can be very entertaining and also enlightening. We've got a lot of good things coming up in the very near future, and so I'm going to try to go quickly through them. Next weekend, our national convention. Our last presidential national convention, presidential nominating convention, was on C-SPAN, and we expect that this one will also be shown on C-SPAN. So check out C-SPAN next weekend, see if we're on there. We should be. Also, next weekend on this show, Live and Let Live, July 1st, we're going to be showing the presidential debate of the Libertarian presidential candidates that was held down at our Texas convention down in Corpus Christi a couple of weekends ago. That same convention where you saw Dick Body speaking. That ought to be very entertaining as well. And then the week after that on this show, we're going to be showing a speech given by Floy Lilly. She's also a very motivating speaker, and she's from right here in Austin. She is out at the University of Texas, and she holds one of the chairs there, and she's in the economics section, economics department out there at UT, but associated with the engineering department. And she's a very strong free market advocate, very entertaining. I think you'll enjoy that. That's July 8th. Then next month, probably on the third weekend of next month, that would probably be the 15th, although we might have it the 22nd. I'm not going to guarantee which. We're going to be doing a wrap-up of what happened at the National Convention. We'll be talking about all the platform issues that came up and the rules changes, and speaking about the candidates, the presidential and vice presidential candidates, of course, but also the party officers. Also, this is the last show until, well, no, that's not true. But it's the last show that I'll be able to talk to you before the 4th of July. So I just want to tell you, when you go out and see the fireworks, remember our roots and celebrate your libertarianism on the 4th of July. I've got a few more minutes, and there's a couple of things that I wanted to talk about. One is right here in the LP News, our national newsletter, from the May issue, something very exciting. All those people that have said, if you've heard in the past, why vote for a third-party candidate? You'll just be wasting your vote. I don't think that those people really understand the political process. They're making a mistake. They didn't understand what happened when the socialists acquired power by influencing the direction of the Republican and Democratic parties at the turn of the century and on into Franklin Roosevelt's terms. And they don't understand the process of what's happening now with the rise of the Green parties and the rise of the Libertarian parties. We are growing. Anyone who doubts it, take a look at this right here. Let's see if we can, I don't know if we're going to be able to zoom in on that or not. It's okay. Yes, I think we are going to be able to zoom in on that. Yes, good. Libertarian registration jumps and finally cracks the 2,000 barrier. And by jumps, what do they mean? What they mean, here, let's go ahead and show that for just another second. Excuse me. Yeah, there we go. What they mean, jumps, what does that mean? You can look at a bar graph and they could have, I've seen people jury-rig the bar graphs and something that is just a tiny change shows up huge because they magnified it on the graph. This shows the change since 1994. It went from 109,000 registered libertarians to, in 2000, 205,000 registered libertarians. We doubled in 6 years. The Green Party is growing very rapidly. The Libertarian Party is growing very rapidly. I believe that what we're seeing is an obsoleting of the Democratic and Republican parties, that they don't have any ideas to contribute to the debate. They're not interesting. The public isn't interested in following them except as a People magazine kind of a thing. And so I think we're going to see some very interesting debates between the third-party candidates and a continuing rise in third-party registration, in particular the Libertarians. And so, there it is. Thank you for being with us for this week's Live and Let Live. Be sure to check out our website, www.austinliberty.org. Thanks for watching.